Some staggering numbers that show just how undisciplined this 2025 Texas team has been. We'll dive in next on Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're locked on to the Texas Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. There are 136 teams in Division I FBS college football. Your Texas Longhorns rank 135th in penalties. That's right. The Longhorns commit the second most penalties per game out of any team in America here in 2025. Georgia State is the only thing preventing Texas from going from preseason #1 team in the polls to postseason #1 team in the penalties. Being #1 or #2, usually a good thing. Not the case here. This Texas team is so undisciplined that it's almost hard to believe. And we saw the lack of discipline on full display Saturday night in Athens as the Horns were penalized 9 times for 62 yards. The quantity's too high, but also the timeliness horrible for Texas. Some costly infractions Saturday night. The most costly, the Colin Simmons offsides on a 4th down and 5 that kept a third quarter Georgia drive alive. It was a 14-10 game at that point. Texas gets a stop there. They take over in plus territory with a chance to take the lead with a touchdown. Instead, you gift Georgia a free first down. They end up getting into the end zone later on that drive. And instead of potentially being up 17-14, you're now down 21-10 because of that penalty. And oh yeah, of course, the onside kick happened right after that to add even more insult to injury. I know that's only one play, but it shows how much one penalty can change the course of a game. Obviously, the Warren Roberson hold on that Ryan Niblett 59-yard punt return. That would have been a huge play for Texas. Instead, it gets called back by a hold. The Longhorns have to start that series way backed up against their own goal line. And it's not just the Georgia game. We have seen some incredibly untimely penalties from Texas all season long. Go all the way back to week 1 against Ohio State. Remember, Texas had 2 brutal defensive penalties on the same drive on 3rd down against Ohio State. And that was on one of the Buckeyes' 2 touchdown drives in that game. That was a game Texas lost by 7. If you don't commit those 2 penalties to keep that Buckeye drive alive, who knows what happens in that game. They can kill you, and they have killed Texas in multiple games this year. Here's the penalty count by game for your 2025 Texas Longhorns. 6, 12, 7, 9, 10, 4, 7, 9, 9, 9. Texas has played 10 games so far this season. They have lost the penalty battle in 9 of them. That is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. This is year 5 of the Steve Sarkisian era. What are we doing? All of these mistakes, all of these self-inflicted wounds. What is happening? The only time that Texas wasn't called for more penalties than their opponent, the Oklahoma game. Texas had 4, OU had 5. The Longhorns just won that one. But I don't think it's a coincidence. That was the best Horns performance of the year. And it was the fewest amount of times they've been penalized this year. And the only game where they've had less penalties than their opponent. I don't think that's just happenstance. It goes to show you how costly penalties can be and how important it is to not be shooting yourself in the foot time after time after time like a Cyndi Lauper song. It's crazy. In the 3 meetings against Georgia in these last 2 seasons, Texas has had 8 penalties, 11 penalties, and 9 penalties. It's hard enough to beat Georgia when you play clean. If you repeatedly shoot yourself in the foot the way Texas has, you have no chance to beat the Dogs. No chance. I know the Longhorns haven't had a super favorable whistle this year. The Longhorns lead the conference in penalties. They're also dead last in the SEC in penalty yards against. It's the second straight year that has happened. I don't love that trend. I'm really hoping it goes away in 2026. But most of my griping with the Zebras this year, it's been about calls that haven't been called on the other team. It's not about penalties that they call on Texas. Why? Because Texas really is committing that many penalties every Saturday. Like just about every flag on the Longhorns this year, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, has been warranted. There have been a few moments where you look at a replay and you're like, really, they called that? But there have been a lot of them where it's like, no, that's on us. Can't let that one go. I mean, you can't ignore false starts. You can't ignore the Colin Simmons offsides. You have to call a lot of what Texas has done wrong this year. So it's not an officiating problem. It's a Texas problem. So many of these penalties are pre-snap. That's been an issue here for a while. Remember last year, all of the DJ Campbell and Cam Williams false starts on the right side of the offensive line? Like, this isn't a 2025 only deal here, especially with those pre-snap penalties on the offensive line. What gives you faith that Kyle Flood can fix this stuff up front? I don't have an answer for that because I don't have faith that it's going to change because it's been an issue. Warren Roberson, why does he still get to play? He commits a penalty on what feels like every other special teams play. The big one on Saturday. I mean, what are we doing, Jeff Banks? Roberson was a penalty machine last year. And instead of finding somebody else in the offseason who could do that job, they just keep trotting him out there to commit more infractions. Where's the accountability? Certain guys can commit penalty after penalty after penalty, and yet they still get to play. Like, there's no punishment for them. You're telling me with the elite athletes on this roster, there's nobody else you can throw out there to be a gunner on special teams? Really? We have to keep trotting number 4 out there and just letting that happen and act surprised every time it does? Come on. And again, this whole thing is not just a one-year problem. Last year, the Horns ranked 94th in the country in penalties per game. As bad as this year? No. But bad? Yeah. In 2023, the first year the Longhorns made the playoff, they were 99th in the country in penalties. Again, not as bad as this year, but still bad. In 2022, Texas ranked 68th in that category. Believe it or not, the Longhorns' cleanest year from a penalty standpoint in the Steve Sarkisian era, the 5-7 2021 season, where Texas ranked 58th in that category. Still not great, but better than where we're at now. The point is, we're going backwards. This team is getting dumber and dumber by the year under this coach. I know that's a harsh word, but that's the fact of the matter, and that has to change. Look, I'm not saying fire Sark. We addressed that conversation in our most recent episode, but I am saying something has to change with the discipline of this football team because it's just not there, and it's getting worse every single season. It hasn't been there for a while, and you're continuing to go backwards. There's got to be accountability. Somebody has to answer for all of these penalties that just keep happening every single week. And it is killing the Longhorns in these big games. And they had 11 penalties in the SEC championship last year against Georgia. They lost by 3 in overtime. Again, the Ohio State games, both of them, the playoff game and this year, a lot of penalties. Those were close games. This Georgia game was close in the third quarter. Then you commit some dumb penalties. Things get out of hand. It is killing the Longhorns, preventing them from getting over the hump. Tell you what, you better clean it up for these final 2 against Arkansas and A&M. Because if you drop these, doggy. Maybe woo piggy is what I should be saying. 9-3 is stomachable. 8-4, 7-5, which was what the Longhorns could get to if they go 0-2 down the stretch. And Arkansas's 2-8. You better not be losing to the Hogs right there. And they better fix some of those issues because they might cost Texas again here in 2025. I'll say it again. The stat we used to start the show, Texas ranks 135th out of 136 teams in penalties per game. There are plenty of stats that you can point to that show why this season hasn't gone according to plan. But I think the most damning of all of the statistics is that one right there. That just cannot happen. We'd love for it to get fixed in these last 2 weeks, but more importantly, moving forward, that has to be cleaned up. oh, this team cannot continue to play that undisciplined. All right. Would love to hear from y'all in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, your biggest takeaways from Saturday's loss, your thoughts on what I just said. What's been the biggest issue for you for the 2025 Texas football team? Would love to hear from y'all. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Plenty of sound from Steve Sarkisian's Monday press conference. More takeaways from Texas and Georgia, and we'll begin to preview Texas, Arkansas coming up this weekend. But that'll do it for this episode. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but before we get out of here, a quick word for our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, college basketball is back, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with our friends at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, or if you just want to ride the hot hand during a game, FanDuel has live bets on everything, from who's going to score the next basket to crazy fourth quarter or second half comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets in the same game parlays for a shot at even bigger payouts. FanDuel keeps every game more exciting in the NBA or in college hoops. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.